Ben Saggers, sales manager at Head On Helmets, and this is my XS650 Chopper. So the story of the Chopper is, I've got a really long commute to work, so it takes me about an hour riding to get to work, and I had an unreliable Honda CB550, and so I was looking, I wanted to find something that was a bit more reliable to go to work. I had a budget of about sort of £1,400, so not much. And I actually ended up bidding on this bike, which is a Yamaha XS650. As you see it here, it was hard-tailed. It was really not for commuting at all. My wife really didn't understand why I'd bought it because it was another old, unreliable bike. The previous owner, he had done all the work to it, but he hadn't ridden it since about 1986. I got it home and yeah, it was a basket case. The motor turned over, but it wouldn't start. It needed fully going through. And so over the course of about 6 months, it took me to do some of my stuff to it. And then I think about another 4 months whilst I got some professional help. For the bike, not for me. And once we'd sort of finished it, the motor was fully rebuilt and it was actually quite good. So I decided to take it racing. That facilitated us putting tyres and different things and extra modifications. I've been working on it constantly the whole time I've owned it. It's never right. It's never running 100%. So, but yeah, the racing sort of, it almost turned into that's what this bike was about. You know, it's a little bit of Sunday fun, but I think more than anything, I love taking it out and using it for things that are completely inappropriate for what a chopper should be used for. So, you know, we've gone the Malle Mile, the straight line race, Punk's Peak, the hill climb at the mile. I did DirtQuake. The first year I did DirtQuake, it did half a lap and then broke down. The second time we did DirtQuake, actually got into the finals and took out third place, which was pretty cool. So it's getting to that point where it's running really well. I know the bike really well, and we sort of ironed out all the little problems. Yeah, so that's the Chopper. It's probably my favourite bike. All right, so let me take you front to back on the bike and what we've sort of done with it. So the first thing at the front you notice is the tyres. So we've got TKCs on it, front and rear. I use those for the dirt events we do, for racing. I quite like the look of them on the bike now. I tend to leave them on. The rims and the forks, well the rims I think are original. But I'm not sure. Same with the forks, I don't really know. So everything really needed rebuilding. The brake caliper I did myself, and I actually took it to an old guy that had lots of old brake bits and pieces because I didn't know what it was off. I couldn't find any of the seals or anything, and he just dug through bits and pieces he had in his garage and sort of matched everything up. So that was a bit of a budget way of doing it. But it worked. The headlight is clearly not Japanese. It's a Lucas one. I don't know what it's off. The speedo came with the bike, but never worked. And until this morning, when I was riding here, and it actually started working, but it's wildly inaccurate. I've now found out. The handlebars bent, so I had to go back to Kempton Park and find another pair. And moving up, I've had a lot of problems with the clutch. So I've had a couple of different levers on here. This one I think is off a CBR, but again, it was like parts bin. It was just digging through what was available. Also this morning I noticed that the bolt had completely, I don't know where it came out. I don't know when it came out, but I had to dig around and find something for that. Coming forward, I guess we could talk about the frame. It looks pretty homemade. It's actually cracked a couple of times from when we've been racing it at hill climbs, and at the mile you're sort of bouncing around quite a bit. But it's been welded up and it seems to be holding now. The tank, so the original tank when I got the bike was a chopper style tank. but it was just full of rust. Like when I emptied it out, it actually still had some petrol in it. Although I don't know if you could really call it. It was sort of like this mud sludge sort of stuff in there. So I ended up just binning that. And I did a couple of runs to Kempton Park over the years looking for bits and pieces. I came across this, it was 50 quid. It was a bit of a bargain. The guy said it had been painted in 1980 and then never used. So it was actually really good inside. The petrol cap, I lost the original one at Malle Mile this year. And I was borrowing caps off people so I could go racing. And then a couple of guys overheard and they said, oh look, we've got a whole load of petrol caps at home. Tomorrow morning we'll bring them over. And when I came back to the bike in the morning, he found a petrol cap and put it on there. It's actually off a Royal Enfield, surprisingly. Yeah, to the engine. So the engine, when I finally got it started at my house, which was really difficult, the carbs on it, I think were off RD350 or something. It was bits and pieces of all sorts of bikes on here. And they were really small carbs. They weren't really good for the engine. And the engine blew so much smoke that you couldn't see in my garage. It was like a smoke machine. So it was a little bit beyond what I could sort of do. So I went and got enlisted a professional to help me out. That was Colin from LCR Motorcycles. And he sort of took on, he said, all right, well, you need to find pistons and rings and then get them to me and I can help you rebuild it. So searching around, I found an old guy, I think in Devon, and he said, yeah, I've got pistons and rings on the shelf. And then he said, or for 150 quid more, I've got a 750 big bore kit here you can have, which is barrels with bigger fins, pistons and rings. And I said, yeah, all right, just do it. Let's do it. So that then necessitated new carbs, and we rebuilt the engine. Once that was done, that was really what prompted me to take it racing. My mechanic said I was crazy for having this engine in this frame. He said, you should build a flat track bike or something. And I thought, well, I don't care. I'll take it racing as is. Which is where it sort of came about that we started doing all the different events. Moving back along here, so you can see the carbs are actually, at the moment, they're sort of strapped up with cable ties. That was because at DirtQuake, after the first race, I had a bit of backfiring when it was hot, and it actually blew one of the carbs off. And I didn't want that to happen while we were racing, so I cable tied the carbs up onto the engine, and I've left them there because I thought, it works, and yeah, there's no point in taking them off. What else have we got? Oh yeah, so the overflow for the oil breather, it was actually pumping oil, a little bit of oil out onto the air filters and coating them in oil. So I got a bit of pipe and scratched around near the mechanics. There was a pile of rubbish and there was an old baby bottle. So we cut a hole in the top and used that. And that's just stayed there. The seats actually came from America. It was an eBay special. It was listed, it got relisted and no one bid on it. And it was a really nice, so it actually came in the original cardboard box from the 70s. It's made for a Harley, but it's got the right sort of profile and I think it matches the bike pretty well. The sissy bar was my friend Tom from Foundry Motorcycles. He fabbed that up for me. What holds the seat to the sissy bar is actually a Bike Shed bandana that Anna from Bike Shed gave me because she was sick of watching the seat flap around while I was racing. The tail light and the number plate is all original. I don't know what they're off. I think it's sort of like a generic chopper style tombstone tail light. But yeah, everything is all bits and pieces. As we go along, it's just sort of bodge it up and fix it up and make it work as cheap as possible. Like I said, that was the whole idea of the bike, was not to spend a lot of money on it, was to to do it on a budget. And you know, if it's rusty, if it's a little bent and a little out of shape, I don't know, I quite like that. You know, I like the fact that it's sort of unrestored. You know, it's just had what is needed to be done to it. So that's the story of the chopper, and all that's left to do is fire it up.